Hey guys, it's the Witnesses podcast coming to you not live, but it's episode 12, baby. We've been a long way. Another Sunday, another Cavs, another Browns win. Guys, stick around. You don't want to miss this one. We talk about the Denver matchup. We talk about Joe Flacco signing with us, and we get into some crazy things at the end. Always a pleasure, guys. Let's get right into it. Sunday, we won. We embarrassed Pittsburgh. Najee Harris is saying crazy quotes. Tom, initial thoughts about the win, man?
Oh, it feels so good. It feels so good to beat the Steelers. I mean, it wasn't quite the vengeance game I hoped. I wanted to bloody them up. I wanted to injure a few more players. No, I don't want to hurt anyone, but we won. And we won against the Steelers and Ravens in back-to-back weeks for the first time ever, which is a pretty cool thing for our franchise. But it was an AFC North slugfest. It was a slow game, slow burn. We ultimately pull it out with a D-Hop kick at the end, the real D-Hop. I mean, if there should be a Kicker of the Year award. I don't know if that's a thing or if that's not a thing, but it should be a thing.
I think they do like a special teams player of the year kind of award. Yeah, he definitely deserves it. Every time I see him, I think like, Andrew Berry, I love you. I owe you some of my life.
He's been excellent. This was an interesting game. There were some honestly funny moments. Like it felt so much less emotional and tense than the first Browns Steelers game, which was just so anticipated. And then Nick Chubb got hurt and everything changed, which we've got our beautiful boy here, Nick Chubb, in the top left corner. He was on the sidelines for the first time since his injury, which when he was announced, the stadium hit peak levels of screaming. It was bananas. And I heard this whole game was absolutely electric. Like one of the craziest games that a lot of Browns fans that I know go to games all the time. They were like, this is the craziest environment we've ever had.
Browns fans and just off the top of my head, Martin Emerson came out and made that statement. I feel like a few Browns player made it, but Martin Emerson, he's been here a few years only, but he was like, this is the loudest we've ever heard the stadium. And it's cool because, week 10, if this is the loudest that we've been, I mean, there's just room to keep going and going and going. And so many wacky things happen. Tom, Can we talk about the helmet situation with Myles Garrett?
We totally can. Well, so it was a 4th and 1 run. Kenny Pickett did a QB sneak. And at first glance, I think everybody thought he didn't get it. And it got weird because his helmet popped off and a bunch of Browns players jumped on it. It felt like something out of Space Jam or something. And it turns out he like squirted out the back end and like got the first down by probably a yard or whatever. But it's just a weird play. And then Myles goes over and picks up the helmet. And like there's kind of a funny moment. Like that's what I'm talking about with like this environment was kind of almost silly. Like they were like, we know the history. I'm not going to hit anyone with it. And like, he put his hands up. It was funny and kind of lighthearted for a tense rivalry game that meant everything to both of these teams. I mean, Myles Garrett, first play on the defensive side, clearly sacks Kenny Pickett. I'll say it. It was clearly a sack. And there was some confusion on the sideline. Apparently, Kevin did throw the challenge flag, but he threw it late. Apparently, he was talking to the ref about it. And he was making sure that he was allowed to throw the challenge flag, because they were, it was about the spot of the ball. But he was trying to say the spot of the ball meant his safety, which is like, it's one step away. So he wasn't sure if he could challenge that. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately, I think he got another safety the next play on a running play.
On Najee Harris.
And they didn't call that either. And it felt like the Steelers were like, let's just get the ball snapped again, which is the right call for them. But yeah, I think we started with 2 safeties we didn't get. So I think there was definitely an opportunity for this score to be a bit more lopsided than it was. Because we had a really solid first half and we played well in the second half. But, I mentioned this last week. If the Steelers' whole game plan is Jaylen Warren is going to beat us, they're not going to be able to do it. And they almost did. He had a great fucking game.
130 plus.
Yeah.
yards.
I mean, he had like a 75-yard touchdown. That's the majority of that. And also, we didn't have Juan Thornhill in the backfield. I think that's a kind of play that he prevents from being a 75-yard touchdown at least. But Jaylen Warren was good. Gosh, it's annoying anytime the Steelers would do anything. They kept calling Kenny Pickett really tough. They're like, oh God, this guy is just so tough. It's like, you don't have anything else nice to say about him. You just keep calling him tough. And then, Jaylen Warren would do a run and he'd stiff arm somebody, not get any extra yards, but he'd stiff arm somebody as he was going out of bounds. And they're like, we knew he had speed. We knew he was shifty, but the power. It's like, God, what are you selling cars right now? Like, what is this?
The way he uses his hand that's not carrying the ball. Oh.
They're like, oh, he looks just like Ray Rice. I mean, somebody else, not Ray Rice, but like, so there's always some funny calls, some bad misses, but at the end of the day, war of attrition, we win the game. After a very poor second half, we kind of won the game the way the Steelers have been winning games. We got a little bit of a lead. The other team eked their way back in, and DTR, even though he had a horrible second half, had enough left in the tank for a final drive. And yeah, we sealed it with a D-hop kick. It was badass, and we won.
Can we talk about that second half, Tom? First thing that goes to my mind is the way Kevin called the game was a guy who he knew he was a 5th round rookie, and he basically said, I won't let you mess it up with the plays that I call. And it really looked like he didn't trust him at all, which can you blame Kevin? And then that last drive, you see DTR is able to throw it more than 5 yards. And you saw Pittsburgh sitting on a lot of the throws in the second half, making those adjustments, knowing that we didn't look like we trusted DTR. So I want to ask you, like, what do you think of the play calling? Do you think Kevin did a good job with what he was given? And do you think like he should have maybe let it loose in the third quarter and just kind of test DTR? Or did we put him in a good position to have a game-winning drive?
I think both of those things are true. I think when we were up 10-0, we should have let him throw it down the field at least once, set it up, and see if we can get ahead. If we get ahead by more than 10, if we get up by 17, the Steelers don't have a prayer, and they would start throwing in their backups. But we kind of let them crawl back into the game, and it seemed like every single play. First off, on first down, we were horrible. We would do the classic like delayed handoff or like the misdirection run where 4 people touch the ball and we get tackled for a loss of 3. Like it felt like that happened at the start of so many drives. We had so many like good starts of field position wasted. But having said all that, Kevin's play calling was like he threw on a sweater vest and wanted to be called Jim Tressel for a week. Like he truly called it the exact way that the Buckeyes in the early 2000s would win games. We're going to bleed you out. We're going to run up the middle. We're going to punt the ball. We're going to bleed you out. We're going to run up the middle. We might get a turnover. We're going to punt the ball. Like it was just like, and I think having said that, all of the passing plays, except for the pick that did happen, which was a tipped pass. Like
yes.
It wasn't necessarily his fault. He wasn't even letting him throw in between the hashes. Like everything was an out route for 2 yards. Everything was, he did not trust him. But on that final drive, he was like, oh, I know a series of like 5 passing plays that are going to work. We just have to know when we can use them. And he just held. He had his ace up his sleeve or whatever, or his handful of plays that worked. And he just sat on them all game until he absolutely had to use them. So obviously it's a winning strategy. We won. And I think this is the best defense we're going to play for the rest of the year. So we can play that way and make the playoffs. We can play that way and win the division. It's just come playoff time, we need to have a bit more of a strategy. It can't just be, I mean, death by 1,000 paper cuts, It can't be that all the time, but maybe it can if your defense is this damn good. I don't know, man. It's hard to think that we could go up against a Chiefs or an Eagles team and say we're going to beat you 17-12. Like that feels crazy, but
yeah, it does. The thing about this defense is I predicted wrongly that they're going to get so fed up not knowing who the quarterback is, they'll lose that hope. They'll lose that chutzpah, as Shakespeare says, and you don't see it. You don't see that right now. You see a team that every single game they're getting stronger together. They're loving on each other. They're saying the right things. They're buying in. I credit that to Kevin Stefanski. I mean, that's the head coach. He's the one, when DW4 goes down, he doesn't bat an eye. He goes, this is just next man up football mentality. And it's cliche. It is what it is. But the coach, the NFL head coach position is a cliche position. You guys got to buy in. We go 1-0. It's about till the whistle. That's all rings true because football is violent in nature. It's like you play to the whistle, you play as hard as you can. And I think Kevin has built a culture here with rookie quarterback and winning with PJ Walker. I mean, this is honestly, it's very, very impressive. I want to give him his kudos. And I think we keep this up, we make a playoff run, he's got to be coach of the year.
Oh, wow. I think so. There's this great Marty Schottenheimer quote when he's on the sidelines and he's looking at the Browns players. It's winter. You can see people's breath. And he's just calmly looking at everyone going, there's a gleam, men. There's a gleam. And man, my buddy sent me that clip after the win. And I got so fired up. And then I saw Kevin's locker room. How about that fucking win? Dude, that was the most emotion we've ever seen from him. You know, he's proud of this team. And maybe he's had a separate conversation with the defense and a separate conversation with the special teams and said, it does not matter who's playing quarterback. It does not matter who's playing running back. It does not matter if we have any wide receivers other than Amari. Our defense and our kicking is good enough to win us any game.
Guys, I know our producer's telling us the segment's up, but really quickly, the defense, we talk about 3 phases of football. It's offense, defense, special teams. Porsche is out here getting yards on his punt returns when he fumbled last game. He should be in a low confidence state, but he's not. You see our defense. Guys, it really is 3 phases of football that you have to win on, and we're addressing that, and our head coach has stayed the same. We've had coordinators come in and out, and Kevin's, he's still steering the ship into a potential playoff run, Tom.
Yeah. I mean, the schedule, I'd said this before, it gets a little easier, man. And we've got some good games coming up. We'll talk about that in a bit, but we have some things to decide now because we have officially signed Joe Flacco to our practice squad. I imagine he'll be elevated to the active roster pretty soon. He's a veteran. He won a Super Bowl. I think he's 37 years old, so he's old as hell, but he has won a Super Bowl. His playoff run with the Ravens in 2012 was unbelievable. Anquan Bolden was excellent in those playoffs. He was absolutely incredible. Hard to not like him. But so was Joe Flacco. He went on a run where he didn't throw a pick the entire playoffs. And, he smelled blood in the water. So he's a seasoned veteran who basically, earned $100 million contract for one playoff run. But he won a chip. There's only so many guys who can say that they've ever done that. So we've signed him. And now you can take a look at this QB room here, Zach. What are your thoughts? I mean, if I didn't tell you that we were 7-3 at this point, but I told you it's week 12, and we're going into game 11.
Yeah.
And these are our 3 quarterback options. Would you think that we have a chance in hell of winning a game or winning a playoff game or making the playoffs? Like, do you think any of those things are possible if these are your quarterbacks?
No, dude, I would tell you, hey, I'm so sorry about what's going on in your mind. Like, here's some therapy around you that you can go to. I think you mean 3-7, not 7-3. Joe Flacco, DTR, who they kept calling DRT in the game, and PJ Walker, who's an XFL champ. I mean, make the quarterback Netflix show about these 3 guys. That would be crazy. It's wild. I think here's 2 things about this. I think Joe Flacco is an amazing, and I don't mean good, I mean amazing addition, right? He's a Super Bowl MVP guy. He knows what to tell DTR. I love Andrew Berry, and I want to give him extreme props for bringing this guy in. He could have brought in Matt Ryan. He brought in this guy. You know that they have all mentioned, like, hey, we want you to mentor our guy. What I think happens, they're going to truly want that role. DTR up top, have Joe Flacco mentor to him. And as soon as we see if DTR is not it, if DTR is not making the right moves, if we see him spiraling down, we have a guy that gave Garrett Wilson last year his best year. So I'm not worried about having Joe Flacco in. I don't want him to start right now. Tom, I don't know if that's how you feel, if you don't want him to start right now and they've named DTR starter, but I think we're basically telling DTR, give us a reason to put Joe Flacco in. If you don't give us a reason, you have a Super Bowl MVP guy by your side.
So there's a few things I want to ask you as a follow-up. And they're stupid questions, but I feel like they're questions that people are asking right now, and they're all about people's feelings. First off, if Joe Flacco is just being signed to come in and be a mentor to DTR, does that hurt Deshaun's feelings because Deshaun's supposed to be his mentor?
And I thought of that. I think you can tell Deshaun you haven't won a Super Bowl MVP, and you're not 39 years old. I think you can straight up tell him that, and that is enough.
Okay. And then my second question would be, if you let DTR play until he has a collapse, are you worried about what that does to DTR? Does that completely put out all momentum that he had built up? Does that completely shoot his confidence to thinking like, I am a career backup at best? Or do you think that he can handle that and understand that this team is in a position where we need to win every week? We need to win every opportunity and we can't turn the damn ball over.
I love that question. I go back to when he played the Ravens. Everyone on the earth said, you suck, comment, you suck. And I mean, every single day he'd put like a Bible quote, like, just trust God, everything will be okay. And he'll put like, man, he was going through a lot. So I think that his confidence stays the same and he's resilient through that. I mean, guys, like 3 weeks ago, in his mind, 2 weeks ago, he would never start another Browns game ever again. And then we see him being able to flip that switch, understand it's the NFL, and come in, and he had a game-winning drive. I mean, he's crying afterwards. It's cathartic. It's a lot of emotion. And the other point, Tom, is I don't think it matters. I think if we win, we basically we need 3 or 4 more wins, and we'll get in the playoff. I don't care how DTR feels knowing that we have 230 ready to go next year. We are thinking about that playoff run, and that's all I can say, but very valid, very valid. I mean, what about you? What do you think?
I think this defense and this special teams unit are both so good that we can't turn the ball over. And I do think that like there are going to be plays where DTR turns the ball over and it might be a little ugly. And everyone, just because, we're Clevelanders, we've not had a lot of success, we hit the panic button early, way too early. If you read comment sections on any Cleveland media, you'll want to vomit. Like, Cleveland fans panic, but it's because we've been hurt. We've been hurt so bad. It's a trauma response. It truly is. So if he throws a bad pick, I mean, you might start hearing Flacco chants. You might start hearing PJ chants. I don't know what Clevelanders want, but I think we're in a good enough situation that we can still win and make the playoffs. I think we can absolutely still make the playoffs. I mean, we could go down the record, but let's 1-0. Let's go 1-0 at a time, and we're playing next a team that we can beat. We can win against the Denver Broncos, but turns out Vegas has us not winning this game. Vegas has Broncos 2.5 favorites. Now the Broncos have won. I think they're on a winning streak right now. I know at least 2 games. It could be more than that. But they beat the Bills in primetime, and then they beat the Vikings in primetime. First off, why are they getting primetime games? I mean, I know they are going on a bit of a run now. I just said that. But this is like watching paint dry. This team is boring. And Russell Wilson is boring. I mean, if they don't have a mic in front of him, he's not interesting. Because the Broncos country, let's ride. Like, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen in the NFL in a few years. But like everything on the field has been just boring and uninteresting. And anyway, we're heading into Mile High City. So it's an away game, elevation, it's a tough environment to play. Do you think that we shouldn't be favorites to win this game? Because I think we should be favorites to win this game.
I think you see Vegas really throw a lot of weight on the quarterback, and that's when you see these point swings. And so I think maybe that's what's going on right now is they're like, you guys have DTR, who the best play he did is like throwing over 10 yards. And there's Russell Wilson. And then you have Sean Payton. And that's what they're thinking about. It's going to be a tough test. It's like a Seattle game where it's a West Coast kind of game. It's we're going into somebody's house and they're going to have to be very disciplined on the sleep schedule and everything like that, going 3 hours and things like that. And it's really going to come down to Jerome Ford. It's going to be our running game and Myles Garrett game. I mean, there's allow 5.5 yards per carry to the running back. Okay, and that's 28th in the league. And they also allow 5.5 sacks. That's the worst in the league. So it's gonna come down. It's gonna be gritty though, Tom. Like, don't you think this is similar to the Seattle?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna say this really is like, it's funny that he left Seattle to come play in Denver, and his team is like the exact same as the Seattle team now.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he is quite an upgrade over DTR, but I strongly believe, and the wide receivers they have are better than our wide receivers, but I strongly believe beyond those two position groups, we have an advantage in every single position group. And I think the difference, you've kind of alluded to this, is going to be offensive line and defensive line. Both of our groups are better than both of their groups by a significant margin. Denver's got some nice pieces on the defensive side. They're a gritty defense, but what do we want to do right now with a rookie 5th-round quarterback? We want to run the ball. What are they terrible at? Stopping the run. Okay, so that works out nicely for us. What are they bad at? Stopping pressure on the quarterback. What are we the best at? Pressuring the quarterback. Like, it makes so much sense. But yes, I agree. Like, Vegas is like, well, how is Russell Wilson going to lose to DTR?
Yeah.
And this is 3 phases of football. That's how. I mean, again, I would like to see Kevin Stefanski let it loose a little bit if we start to get a lead early. But at the same time, if he's up 10 and he feels comfortable that he can stop calling plays that are supposed to be successful and we can bleed a team out, like I said, death by a million paper cuts. Like, if we're 8-3 next week, I don't care how we win.
Absolutely. And there's talks about Ronnie Hickman coming in today, which is we're filming on Monday the 20th. Ronnie McLeod is ruled out for the season. Ronnie, we hope you have a speedy recovery. You were a great vet in the locker room. So Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, I mean, these are names that we wanted. We were talking about in the last pod. If you guys smashed that like button, you'd understand we wanted to trade for one of those guys. It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. I don't want to say the T word, trap game, but it could be.
Totally. That's a fair thing to say.
Quick question for you. So I mentioned like we only might need 3 or 4 more wins earlier in the segment. How many more wins do you think we need on this team to make it in the playoffs?
I want to answer that in a few different ways because I'm going to answer it for different questions you didn't ask. So I think 11 is the number.
Okay.
So I think we need 4 more. I think we can absolutely make it with 10, just 3 more. But, it's been a tight race. The AFC is so much better than the NFC. There are so many teams with 5 wins in the AFC. Like, there are playoff teams in the NFC with 4 wins, I think. Or there's one with 5 wins. And in the AFC, it's like, if you have 6 wins, you're hoping that everything fell the right way for you right now, which is crazy to say. We didn't mention it too much, but the Browns right now feel unbelievable, and the Steelers locker room, like we're going to send them into a downward spiral. They were acting like they just like saw Nick Chubb get injured and he played for them. They're done for. They're going to go on a losing streak. I think though, this team can genuinely win every single game on their schedule still. And I will not predict that, but we saw what happened to the Jaguars when they played the 49ers. They got embarrassed. And the Bengals don't have Joe Burrow anymore. I mean, who's going to beat us? Are the Rams going to kill us with Puka? Like, I don't know, man. I just don't. Are the Jets going to prove to be
Get
a
Aaron
great
Rodgers?
defense? And yeah, are they going to get Aaron Rodgers back? I mean, like, is he going to play? Gosh, I should have said that. That's such a great point. He's going to try and play at that point. And Myles Garrett is going to
send him back to Neil Elitrosh.
Yeah, he's gonna remove his Achilles again. There's not a game on our schedule that I see left that I'm like, we can't win that game. I think we can absolutely win every game. And if I'm being 100% honest, I think we should win all of those games when I look at them as individual games.
I love that about you.
But I shouldn't say like we're gonna win our next 8 games or 7 games or whatever. But if you like ask me straight up, we're going to LA to play the Rams. Should you guys win? Yes. Yes, we absolutely should win. We're going to Denver, play the Broncos. Should we win? Yes, we absolutely should win. We're a better team. And like, there's a few things that's happened with this team this year that just like, some people would say this is a reason to believe in some higher power or a reason not to believe. And for me, it's been a reason to believe. We lost Jim Brown. Love Jim Brown. He left us before the season started. Jim Donovan relapsed with cancer. He called some games at the beginning, was gone for a bit. He came back this last game. A beautiful thing to see him. Nick Chubb goes down, horrific and injury. Deshaun situation stays muddy until he's out for the year. There's just been so many crazy storylines with this team. I think we're a team of destiny. I think we're a team of like, we're going to find a way to do it. It doesn't matter. It's us against the world. And like, it's so funny to see other people start to adopt that. Like after we're going to talk about Michigan in a second, but they've started to have Michigan versus everybody shirts. It's like, this is not your thing.
Yeah.
This is not your thing. It's Ohio's thing. It's Cleveland's thing. It's us against everybody. And that's how it feels this year, man.
I think you can only enjoy that if you've seen and been a part of the Cleveland Browns fandom. I think, like you said, reason to believe. I mean, I'm a believer, guys. The thing about it is God tests you. And the thing about sports is when you're pulling God, you're having a crazy season. When you're talking about is this destiny, are the Browns cursed, and you believe it? These are all like existential things. And this really seems like, when I think about it as a Cleveland Browns fan, that we have been through, that people above my age have been through in their lifetime, the only way to get that ugliness out is to make a playoff run in a season like this, where we have no business being where we are right now, but we're here and we're getting all that gunk out,
We're absolutely here. And I mean, there are only so many teams. We're tied for the 5th best record in the league right now. And we've had 3 different quarterbacks start. We've had PJ Walker start. We've had a rookie start twice. One of his 2 starts was on 2 hours notice. And I'm sorry, when Deshaun's played, it's been the ghost of Deshaun Watson. He has one good half of football.
Yeah.
Piss up a rope if you think your team could do that with those quarterbacks. Get out of here. The Niners could not do that without Dusty Brock.
And Tom has mentioned this, right? We sent the 49ers in a 3-game losing streak, had them questioning everything. I mean, our rumor is, TWP is obviously, that we're reporting this. Rumor is Brock Purdy looked for a different roommate because he couldn't handle what was going on. And now we see the Steelers. Najee Harris is having 3 or 4 quotes that are out of this world that are like, yeah, I could answer that, but I shouldn't. And then he answers it honestly. It's like, when we beat teams, we send them into a spiral. And that means we are a powerful team. And props to Kevin Stefanski, and also props to another head coach at Ohio, Ryan Day. I mean,
let's go, Ryan Day. It is the week. It is the week.
And we've purposefully haven't said M's. I'll say it now throughout this podcast. Go back and listen to it. We've said no M's, and if you did,
I might have said an M. My
no,
bad.
we've said M's. I was trying to get people engaged.
make them go back and find it.
Rewind it, guys.
Dude, that would be so funny to have a comment section full of, at this time you said Michigan. Oh man.
But Tom,
funny.
it's the game, right? The game is coming up on Saturday. Initial thoughts are we going to see another crying coach? Are we going to see a guy in recording sunglasses? Like, what are your thoughts going into the game?
I love that Michigan. I'm going to say it because it's like Voldemort. I'm not afraid to say it. Like, I'm not scared of them at all. Michigan, I'm so glad that they have all of these other things going on. I'm so glad that they're crying after, beating Penn State, who they should beat. Penn State's good, but they're not great. Like, what is this guy doing? And Jim Harbaugh, I mean, like, Michigan wrote a letter. Like, what is this? Like, I'm so glad they have all of this BS going on because Ohio State is calmly and quietly dominating their matchups. They've been dominating all year. Kyle McCord has been pretty good, but that's all he needs to be when you have the best weapon in the country by the name of Marvin Harrison Jr. And you have a defense that has gotten progressively better since we got this new defensive coordinator 2 years ago. He's gotten this defense to be I think we're a top 3 defense in the country. We don't give up points. We don't give up yards. We don't give up first downs. We're playing in the big house. We're playing in Michigan's home turf. So we'll see what happens. They beat us in our house last year, and a lot of these guys definitely want that revenge. I mean, you gotta give props to Blake Corum. He is a beast, and the backup running back Donovan Edwards is also a beast. But then after those two, I don't know a ton about this team. I think JJ McCarthy is so average. I think he's like Nick Mullen. He's like that good. He's like not good. That's what I have to say about JJ McCarthy. If he gets a shot in the NFL, it's because he played at a big program. It's not because he's good or his size or his skill or his talent or any of that. Ryan Day, this is your week, man. This has to be your week.
Absolutely.
Because if we lose 3 times in a row, I would understand if they were calling for his head. Even though he's what now, like 55-6 for his whole career, which is maybe the best record of all time for first 60 starts as a college coach. It's unbelievable the run he's on. But there is nothing more important than beating those dirty bastards up north, Michigan.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great game on Saturday. We'll get Ohio State dub, another Cleveland dub on Sunday, and we'll just be rolling.
We're going to transition to talking about those Cavs, those sweet, sweet Cleveland Cavaliers. And not to toot my own horn, but toot, because we were 4-6 last time we recorded. Now we are 7-6. I predicted we would win the next 2 games, but we won the next 3 because, 2 of those wins are against the Trailblazers and the Pistons, who, I mean, I don't know if you watched the Trailblazers game. That team is not going to win a lot of games this year. And I know it's also kind of like just some West Coast versus East Coast stuff where, like, I feel like you can guarantee that there's going to be good offensive play in the West Coast at all times, but there might not be any defense. Whereas like in the East Coast, I just think, both teams are going to play hard defense, but both teams might not know how to shoot. So we had a lot of easy buckets in that Blazers game. And then we played the Pistons and kind of cruised, but we also snuck in a win against the Nuggets. And we were super hurt against the Nuggets. So we were missing a few players against the Nuggets. I think we had 4 people out, and we still managed to pull out a win. They don't have Jamal Murray right now, so that is a big one. But we had 4 players in our regular rotation not play in this game. We had to call on the young guys, and they stepped up. Are you liking what you're seeing from this Cavs team now in this short little winning streak we have?
Absolutely. And those city jerseys, I didn't think they were good. And seeing them, in action, I was like, I kind of like these jerseys.
They're tight. They look like They got that Grecian effect where they look like they're from ancient Rome, man. They look nice.
That's
they
a great
look good.
word. And Tom, we're seeing guys like Craig Porter Jr. going knock, knock, knock. I'm the backup point guard here. Taking the spot from Ty Jerome. This is something we talked about early in the coming podcast was who is that backup guy? We're seeing Craig Porter Jr. going crazy right now. Tom has mentioned Max Strus has a couple posters. I think what you can see right now, and Tom, let me know if you disagree, is things we can look, forward to. But I'm curious, do you think Donovan Mitchell is looking at us and saying, okay, I can play like this with what you guys are winning with? Or do you think it's going to be like another clash of then these guys have to all change the way they play with Mitchell?
Oh, I think it's so important that a player like Mitchell gets to not play a few games and watch his team play. Because, I just think it's always the case with athletes where, that's why watching film is so important. You have to see what you look like, and you also need to see what your team looks like. And I think he's a smart enough guy that he'll know how he can complement this group. Obviously, he can complement it by dropping 71 every now and again. But, to see them play this way and play hard and play tough. Go against the champs, the reigning NBA champs with multiple rookies playing serious minutes and take it to them. We took it to them the whole game. We would take a lead by 10, 15, 20, and then they'd fight their way back in. And then we go, oh, that was nice. And we'd go back up by another lead. We did that the whole game. And yeah, dude, Craig Porter Jr., what a find. Undrafted rookie, I believe. Craig Porter Jr. at Wichita State led his team in every statistical category other than points, which is freakish. I don't know why people weren't higher on him. That guy would make every NBA roster. He plays defense hard. He's super athletic, and he is not afraid of the moment. You see it all the time where rookies will come in and they're kind of like, oh, I need to see a shot or two go in before I'm starting to play with a little swag. If he has the ball in his hands and somebody sets a pick and he's open for the mid-range, he is not hesitating. He is shooting those mid-range shots, and his shooting percentage isn't perfect, but I think he had 21 points this game against the Nuggets. Yeah, he's only played in 5 games, he's playing great ball. And, we've talked about Niang, and I think Niang has started to play better, but somebody like Sam Merrill is just whispering in his ear, if you don't make this shot, they know I will. So, gosh, we've got a lot of youth. We were talking about why we could be excited about the Summer League team, and everyone's like, Summer League doesn't mean anything. It's we got 7 guys on the Summer League team who could be a backup in the NBA right now. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it happen right now in real time. And it's been nice for Donovan to not play these last 2 games because Garland has gotten to have some of his mojo back. He's made a few shots where I was like, you're not afraid of nothing. Where, some deep step back threes where the clock was running out and he realized, oh, I just have to shoot this, whatever.
Yeah.
And just money. There was something I heard that I didn't realize was happening, but apparently Max Strus, when he joined the Cavs, was like, I can't wait to meet Evan Mobley. I just know he and I are going to be quick friends. And apparently they're best friends. And they love playing together. And some of these posters have been they've fed each other for dunks a handful of times. So, I guess friendships kind of come in places you're not expecting necessarily. You wouldn't expect the 3-and-D wing player and, the potential superstar at 4 to be just best friends, but they love each other apparently. And I'm we need more chemistry. We need everything. We need anything we can take with this damn team.
Thinking about Summer League and even like you mentioned Sam Merrill, even without that, Dean Wade hits the craziest 3-point shot I've ever seen.
That was awesome. That was awesome. He was falling out of bounds.
Like things are going into place. What makes me nervous, and nervous is a word I use every single podcast, is that Darius Garland is looking like the guy that we want him to look like. I really want to see how he looks when Mitchell comes back, because I don't want to see him different at all. If anything, I want to see Mitchell different. Tom, do you agree with that?
I 100% agree with that. And that is such a scary thing that we could add our best player and be worse.
It's a weird thing to say.
It's a really weird thing. I mean, like, I think the Bulls are experiencing that, but their team is dog shit and Zach LaVine is dog shit. But like, we're experiencing it with like a really good team where like, I just think the chemistry for this group is also so important to them. Like I was just talking about with Mobley and Strus being kind of like an unusual pairing of friends. Like I think Tristan Thompson has this camaraderie with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Yep. Like I think he has taught them to be dogs, like we said he would. Like he's providing really valuable minutes. I can't say enough good things about Thompson.
It makes no sense to me.
I thought he was washed up 4 or 5 years ago, and he's playing valuable minutes for this team, and the young guys are just stepping up. I don't know what to say. I hope that Donovan comes back and he finds a way to fit in with this group more because, yeah, I think he's the odd man out, which is so weird. He's our best player, but if things continue to show that he doesn't fit with these people, yeah, I want to trade his ass. And I can't believe I'm saying that. But if his stock is still up and our team's overall stock is still up, we need to trade him while we think we can get a handful of pieces or maybe another superstar to just add to this group. Who are you looking toward, or like what kind of addition by subtraction can we do with Donovan if we have to make a move on him?
What do you mean by that?
Like, who would we go for? Or like, is there anything other than like just getting rid of him that we could do? Because I don't know.
I truly think a recoupment of picks is what we need. Like this
That's
team.
Fair. That's so fair.
This team right here is enough to get me excited about. Like, dude, they could win the first round of the playoffs. They could do
without him. Without him. Exactly. I genuinely think that.
80 games of them meshing together and Garland saying, "I'm him," is all that we need. It allows Mobley, like we said last pod, to become the guy that he needs to be, and he doesn't need to be anything crazier than what he is. So I think this is quite literally the most important time right now with the injury to the illness, and it's an injury and an illness to Donovan Mitchell. This might be the most important time right now in the Cavs' last 5 years to see, Tom, just like you said, if we make a run and then we see Mitchell coming back and he's not good, that's the biggest red flag I could ever think of.
And we've seen a bunch of them already. That's why our ears are perked up. That's why we don't have full confidence in this group as they are put together right now. And do we want Donovan to be our fucking knight in shining armor? Yeah, you're right. We do. But we lost to the Knicks in the first round last year. And I'm still embarrassed by that. Like, I don't think that should have happened. And I think every other Clevelander feels the same way.
One quick thing to mention. Sorry, with the producers in my ear. JB Bickerstaff came out yesterday or a couple days ago and said what he does as a philosophy is he assesses the team in 20-game increments. So we are approaching the 20th game. We will see what kind of adjustments JB made. He said he's kind of lax on how the first 20 games just to see what happens. So it's going to be an interesting time, guys. Make sure you smash that subscribe button so you can get the experts' takes here. But it's going to be extremely, extremely what is going to happen go forward.
Dude, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it.
Do it.
You a long time ago, before we even started the pod, you'd said, I wish we didn't even make the Donovan trade because this group, minus Donovan, but plus all those picks, plus Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton would be better than this team we have now. I think you were right. And, Colin Sexton hit a shot to force double overtime the other night. Lauri Markkanen did he win most improved player last year?
Yep. And he's a military man.
Was an all-star guy. I'm just thinking about how like those guys fit in. those guys bought into the chemistry here. And neither of those guys can even like sniff the air that Donovan Mitchell breathes. I genuinely mean that. They're nowhere near the player he is. But those guys bought in. And those guys fit this chemistry. They believed in JB. They believed in the rest of the crew. Like, that's just what we need. We need, like, I mean, dude, the Browns are winning with no one at quarterback. Like, we're a city that, like, we can't just attract stars like LA. Like, we can't just go, well, don't worry, next year we'll get 3 different superstars and we'll just see what happens. Like, we have to grow it from the ground up, and people have to buy in. The head coach has to convince these guys who are getting paid millions of dollars to buy in. And I just don't know if we're ever going to get Donovan to fully buy in. I just don't.
Guys, let us know what you think down in the comments. Do you agree with what Tom said, or do you disagree with what Tom said?
I really want to know how these MFers feel. Because you know what? I love doing this podcast. I've been having so much fun. It's episode 12. We're just going to keep rolling them off. And yeah, we've got a big week. Like we said, we got another Browns game, and every game means everything. We got a few exciting Cavs matchups in the next couple of matchups that they have this week. And we have the game for Ohio State versus Michigan. We are all very excited here at TWP. So thank you again for listening. Subscribe, comment, talk trash. I got called a Karen last week. So, like, if you think I'm being Karen, like, tell me I'm being a Karen. I don't know if I've been a Karen on the podcast. You tell me, though. Tell me. Hey, let's all comment.
Drop a comment.
Is Tom being a Karen? Let's get out of here, Zach. This has been another fun one. TW.
Peace.